Hi everybody, it's Professor Adler-Kassner here with a few midweek responses in a general sense to your writing. So the TAs and I have read through some of the response paper ones that you've all submitted, not all of them, and we will be sending each of you individual responses to your response one papers. But in advance of that, and as you work on your writing for next week, your response papers, we wanted to give you some general feedback on your writing. So that's what this video will be about. I also have a few Gaucho Space sort of administrative details for you. So first, we're going to turn to your writing. So when you get your writing back, you'll see that you have some comments from each of us. Each one of you will have a comment from us. The comments will have something we enjoyed about your writing. It'll have a question or an idea that we have for you based on what you've written. And here, we're writing these so we can focus your attention on things to work on as you work on response paper 2. So our comments on response paper 1 will be about that paper, but we're really pushing you to think about and focus your attention for the next paper that you write, and then the paper you write after that, so that our comments will be useful for you as you think ahead in the course. Then as you come to the last project for the course, you can of course look back on all those comments and think about what you'd like to write there. It'll also describe what we hope to see or expect to see in that next assignment. So that's what you'll see when you get your papers back. You'll either get full credit, which hopefully you will, or no credit. There are no grades on these papers. It's either full credit or no credit. So you'll see that from us as well. So generally, as you think about response paper 2, what we've seen so far, we wanted to talk to you about really using evidence in your writing. We think that that's going to be very important to help you work on response paper 2 and other papers moving forward in our course together. So the important thing here is that we'd like you to draw on specific evidence from the readings, from the videos, and or from your experience. So you certainly want to include specific evidence from the readings and videos, and the questions will ask you to do that. We also hope that you'll include specific evidence from your real experience in your own lives. That's really important here, because the questions will ask you, what's a connection between something you're seeing in a reading or a video and something that you've experienced or that interests you? And when you describe that, we want to hear from you about your experience. That's important and valuable evidence here in this course and in some other courses that you'll take at UCSB as well. So a second thing that we really want to see when we read these response papers is engagement with the ideas. I've mentioned this in the writing tip on the Humanities and Fine Arts preview video that I made to sort of frame that week that hopefully you all are watching. But really important to ask questions, wrestle with ideas, sort of talk about how this is challenging your thinking, digging into stuff. Less important to come up with some sort of polished thesis statement, to make sure that everything's absolutely perfect about these papers. So we want you to avoid what we sometimes think about as sort of these really grand general theses like, since the dawn of time, people have cared about fire, and really dig into questions that you have or ideas, things that are very specific in the from the videos, from your experience about your writing. So I've written a little tiny and very bad example of what I mean here for you. So I'm just going to try to talk you through it. So this is as if I'm writing a response to one of the questions for response paper 2. So I would write, one idea I found really intriguing this week comes from Professor Kate McDonald's video, the idea there are an infinite number of ways to tell a story. So next, the blue text is where I'm bringing in evidence from the video. Professor McDonald talked about how different documents highlight different details about an event. She was talking about the bombing of Hiroshima. Now I'm going to switch, and the red text I'm about to read is the connection to my own experience. But her ideas made me think about other histories I've read. Now, I'm going to talk about the experience that I would connect to. And I want to make a note here. The experience I'm going to talk about comes from school, but that's because I'm a geeky person who thinks a lot about school. You can and are super welcome to bring in evidence from your own experience, your life. I just chose to focus on school because it was the first thing that came to mind, and I was doing this really quickly. But you absolutely should and can bring in evidence from your experience in your life, in the world. So I would write, I've always been interested in the way that different texts tell different stories about similar events. So that's a connection in that peach colored text. Now the purple text is evidence from my own experience. One of my graduate mentors, a professor named David W. Noble, wrote about this often. He looked at how different historians, cultures, values, and ideologies led them to emphasize different aspects of American history in their narratives. So that's a little bit about evidence I would bring in that is from my life. It happens to be in school. You do not need to bring in evidence from school. It can be from anywhere, but you want to make that connection and really fill in the details of that experience. So I hope that's helpful for you. Okay, now some administrative details. When you submit your papers, you should save the files with the file name that's described on the syllabus. So some of you are using the file name described on the syllabus as literally the title of your papers. We meant that you should save it as the file name for your assignments. So it should be your last name, .int, .w20, .s18, .week, and then whatever week it is. So next week would be week 2. And then you see an example of what I would do for mine. Now, I also want to show you some things about the website. So here we are in the website. Right now, as of this second, this schedule link is still here, INTW20. Don't pay attention to that, as I've mentioned in a previous video. Instead, use the schedule that's in each week of the Gaucho Space site. So right now we're on week 2, Humanities and Fine Arts. Pay attention only to those course blocks. Next week, Social Sciences. So I'm going to delete this schedule because we're updating the website as we go, and really important to pay attention to the specific Gaucho Space weeks rather than what's in those blocks. Okay, that is the midweek feedback thus far. I may be back in touch with more feedback, and we will look forward to reading your writing and talking with you as the course continues. Don't forget that we all have office hours during the week via Zoom. Feel free to contact us. We look forward to talking to you about questions, about your writing, or anything else in the course. Okay, talk to you soon.